Hey y'all! Thought we'd pop in today to talk about sewing for the seasons and how your sewing machine can basically become your own personal weather forecaster. Not a very accurate weather forecaster, mind you. It won't tell you if it's going to rain tomorrow, but it will absolutely tell you that you should have started sewing your winter coat about 6 months ago. If you've ever found yourself frantically making shorts during a heat wave or trying to finish a scarf while your fingers are already frozen, then congratulations! You are participating in a time-honored sewing tradition known as being slightly behind schedule. Today I want to talk about how sewing with the seasons in mind can make your wardrobe more practical, more enjoyable, and honestly a lot more fun. One of the things I love about handmade clothing is that it forces us to think ahead. The stores may decide that bikinis belong on the shelves in February and Christmas sweaters belong out in October, but when you're sewing your own clothes, you get to decide what makes sense. Well, in theory. In practice, many of us spend April thinking about Halloween costumes and November wondering if we should somehow finish a sundress before the snow arrives. But the beauty of seasonal sewing isn't perfection. It's developing a habit of paying attention to what you actually wear and what you'll need in the coming months. Instead of buying something at the last minute, you're creating something specifically for your life. Spring is one of my favorite sewing seasons because everything feels optimistic. The birds are singing, the flowers are blooming, and the fabric store is suddenly full of prints that make you wonder if maybe you do need another floral fabric, even though you've already got 8? You probably do. Actually, the answer is probably no. Let's not dwell on uncomfortable truths. Spring sewing is all about versatility. Temperatures bounce around like they drank 3 cups of coffee before breakfast, so lightweight layers become your best friend. This is the perfect time for breezy skirts, light jackets, simple dresses, and cardigans that can be tossed on whenever the weather decides it's still partially winter. Fabric choices become especially important during spring. Lightweight cottons, linens, and gauzy fabrics help create garments that feel fresh without being overly warm. Of course, working with some of these fabrics can feel like trying to negotiate with an angry octopus. They shift, they slide, they wrinkle if you look at them funny, and they seem personally offended by the concept of remaining straight while you cut them. Yet somehow, after all the muttering and pinning and occasionally dramatic sighing, they turn into beautiful garments that practically announce, "Look at me! I survived this project and all I got was this lovely blouse." Then summer arrives, and suddenly our sewing priorities become very simple. We want clothing that doesn't feel like we're wearing an upholstered sofa. Summer sewing is all about staying cool, staying comfortable, and avoiding fabrics that trap heat like they're preparing for a polar expedition. This is the season of tank tops, loose dresses, and comfortable shorts, and anything featuring an elastic waistband. Let's be honest, elastic waistbands are one of humanity's greatest achievements, right up there with indoor plumbing and sliced bread. There's something deeply satisfying about creating clothing that looks good while also allowing you to eat an entire barbecue dinner without immediately regretting all your life choices. Summer also gives us permission to play with color. Bright prints and cheerful fabrics and patterns that practically scream vacation become incredibly appealing. Even if you're just walking to the mailbox, your handmade tropical print dress can convince you that you're heading toward a beach somewhere. That's one of the secret joys of sewing. The garment doesn't care where you're actually going. It happily supports whatever fantasy you've created. You can be folding laundry while dressed like someone who owns a seaside villa. The sewing machine doesn't judge. It simply enables your delusions in the most supportive way possible, like a good friend. By the time autumn rolls around, many sewists hit their creative peak. Something about cooler weather makes us want to make absolutely everything. Suddenly we're planning jackets and shawls and tunics and dresses and enough layering pieces to outfit an entire village. Autumn fabrics are particularly tempting. Flannel and corduroy and brushed cottons and wool blends start appearing everywhere. Walking through a fabric store in the fall requires tremendous self-control. Every bolt seems to whisper, "You could make something cozy with me." Before you know it, you've accumulated enough fabric to survive 3 separate lifetimes of sewing projects. Layering is really the star of autumn sewing. The beauty of layered clothing is that it provides flexibility while allowing us to show off multiple handmade pieces at once. Why wear one handmade garment when you can wear 4? It's basically a sewing fashion show disguised as practical weather management. A handmade shirt under a handmade cardigan with a handmade scarf creates the perfect opportunity for someone to ask where you got it. Then you get to casually say, "Oh, this? I made it." Sewists know that this sentence delivers approximately the same level of satisfaction as winning a minor Olympic event. Winter sewing shifts the focus toward warmth and comfort. This is the season when practical considerations take center stage. Suddenly we're interested in fleece linings, heavier fabrics, cozy pajamas, and garments that can survive temperatures that seem specifically designed to discourage outdoor activity. Winter projects often take a little longer, but they're incredibly rewarding. There's something wonderful about wrapping yourself in a garment that you made with your own hands, while the weather outside is doing its best impression of an Arctic documentary. Accessories deserve special attention during winter. Scarves, hats, mittens, and other cold weather items may seem small, but they offer quick, satisfying projects that make a huge difference in daily comfort. Plus, they provide the perfect opportunity to use smaller fabric pieces and leftover materials. Sewists are notorious for saving scraps because we are all convinced that one day we'll need that oddly shaped 6-inch piece of fabric. Sometimes we're right. Most of the time we're creating a collection that resembles a textile version of organized chaos. But winter accessories occasionally justify our fabric hoarding tendencies, and that's all the validation we really need. What I think makes seasonal sewing so valuable isn't just the finished clothing, it's the mindset behind it. Sewing encourages us to become more intentional about what enters our wardrobe. Instead of accumulating random items, we're creating garments with a purpose. We start noticing what we actually wear, what fits our lifestyle, and what gaps exist in our closet. The process becomes less about chasing trends and more about building a collection of clothing that genuinely works for us. That kind of awareness can save money, reduce waste, and help prevent the infamous situation where someone owns 37 shirts but somehow has nothing to wear. Another benefit of sewing seasonally is that it creates a natural rhythm for your creative life. Every season brings new fabrics, new colors, and new project possibilities. Just when you start feeling bored with one type of project, the weather changes and offers a completely different set of opportunities. Your sewing room evolves throughout the year, and so does your inspiration. The changing seasons become creative prompts that keep things fresh. It's almost like nature is running a year-long sewing challenge, except without deadlines, judges, or the terrifying possibility of becoming eliminated because your zipper installation wasn't dramatic enough. At the end of the day, sewing for the season is really about creating a wardrobe that supports your life while making the creative process more enjoyable. It helps us think ahead, appreciate the changing year, and fill our closets with pieces that have meaning. Every garment becomes tied to a particular season, memory, or project journey. Some projects come together beautifully. Others teach us important lessons, usually involving seam rippers and colorful vocabulary. Either way, every stitch becomes part of a story. And honestly, that's one of the best things about making our own clothes. Well, y'all, that's about it. I'd love to hear which season inspires your sewing projects the most, and whether you're a careful planner or a proud member of the Panic Sew It the Night Before Club. Happy stitching!